Hey, how's it going, everybody? That's what happens when you press the wrong button and you end up starting the show 2 minutes early. All good. I probably owe you guys a little extra time anyways because I have been offline for 2 weeks, which might explain the low attendance at the beginning of the show. But that's okay. No problem. I have had a very successful few weeks trying to sort things out. A lot of travel and whatever. We can talk about that in a second. Okay, that sounds all right. So let me know how it sounds in the comment section whenever you get a chance to tune in. I've been working on a couple of things, but first we'll catch you up on what's going on in the rest of my life, I guess. So we were away for Christmas, and we were home for Christmas, but that was on Thursday, so we didn't do a show 2 weeks ago. And then last week I was actually in Ontario, so I was visiting my family in just west of Toronto, and so we drove. We drove to Ontario, and that would have been New Year's Day would have been last Thursday. So sorry that I missed a couple of weeks here, and like I said, that's par for the course, unfortunately, with the way that this goes. But I am back for the new year and ready to giddy up again. So this is kind of officially the first show of the year, and I've got some cool stuff going on, which I want to share with you here shortly. If you remember back in late last year, I was having trouble getting ProPresenter 7, so it's version 21, I think. I can look it up here actually. ProPresenter, with working with workflows to manipulate the Blackmagic ATEM that we have to run our actual video switching. And the goal was to get when a particular slide goes up, to figure out a way to trigger that slide to do something on the ATEM. Okay, so it's a pretty straightforward automation. But the question becomes, what is going to be the trigger, and how is that going to work inside of our system? So we started going down the path of automation when it comes to workflows inside of BitFocus buttons. Now, Companion has two different modules. There is BitFocus Companion and BitFocus Buttons, and they're both relatively the same program. The only major advantage I find with BitFocus Buttons, other than a disadvantage, is you have to pay for anything more than just the basic level, whereas Companion is free all the way through, open source. But here, with BitFocus Buttons, it cleans up the buttons on your Stream Deck substantially. And so that is kind of what I really like about BitFocus Buttons, is it looks a lot nicer. It's visually appealing, and you can kind of customize all of it. So I have everything color coded on mine, and I can show you that here also in a second if you're curious. But BitFocus Buttons is basically BitFocus Companion. It's all the same modules, but it's visually appealing, especially on Stream Deck. You can kind of make those buttons look certain ways, and it cleans it up substantially. So like I said, I have mine all color coded per program that I'm using, vMix being one of them, sound effects for another one.
Good news, everyone!
I've got let's see what else here. I've got an audio tab that shows if VLC is running on the NDI computer and on my main vMix machine. Also provides a mute button if I need to. I have a lighting button. Now I've only got two lights, which are both Elgato lights, and I have a gripe against them. I probably said this before. They lost connection over the break because I didn't use them for 2 weeks. They lost connection to the Wi-Fi, and the main one, the key light, is easy enough. You power it off, power back on again, and it usually comes up. But the mini light has essentially two buttons. One of them is a multifunction button. The other one is just strictly a power button. If it loses connection to the Wi-Fi, you have to reset this thing and reconnect it to your computer, which is really silly because my Wi-Fi doesn't change. It doesn't kick you off for having a long lease. I even have it set as a DHCP reserved address, and so when it came back on today, it took the same address, which means all my automations work. I don't have to do anything with that. It just, the DHCP knows the MAC address and just reassigned it. But it randomly falls off the network. And BitFocus Buttons actually has a feedback which will tell me if that connection has failed, which is a nice feedback feature. I know pretty much right away, all right, that I've lost the network connection to that device. So that's cool, but the real issue is, why is it losing connection to the network? Because it really doesn't need to it's not a very complicated product, and it's certainly, my other wireless devices have stayed on the network since I rebooted it 25 days ago. So that's most of the lease time on there is 25 days, been on, going strong, no real issue. So I'm not really too sure what is up with this Elgato Key Light Mini is what it's called. It's actually my fill light, but it's really annoying. And if I had back in the day, I wanted to be able to press a button on my computer and turn the lights on. Well, now that I'm this far down the road with BitFocus Companion and buttons, I'm also, the whole house is automated, and so I could have really used more basic lights, which are the two that are here on the ground. I've got 4 of those. Unfortunately, they're 2 different brands, but I've got 4 of those, and these 2 lights are associated with my house automation, so I can tell, we'll say, the microphones that are listening full time, I can tell them, okay, turn on RGB lights, and these rear lights, the blue ones, turn on. And it's that easy. Well, I would love to just do that for my key lights. You can get bigger, brighter lights, white lights, with less functionality, but put a Z-Wave or a Zigbee switch on them and mount them to your computer space, and off you're running. So honestly, all this way down the road, I think at this point in my career, I would never buy the Elgato lights ever again. Mostly because I know how to make them work. I know how to make lights work. Cheaper lights that are brighter, that are better with the white balance, that are just simple plugs, 110 plugs. I would probably much rather do that than go down this road again with the Elgato one. So let me just do this real quick. Okay, so that's been my gripe today. Is I've spent about 15 minutes remembering how to resync this light and getting it working again, and they are working again. The button works and turns them on and off, and that's actually really nice, but again, not really needed for my studio. And when I move to the new office space across the house, I'm not too sure if I'm going to need those or not, so we'll find out. But because I might do something different, I might upgrade them for that space. Now, I will keep these RGB lights. They're really nice, and I have another set, like I said, and I might get them out too, just to add more lumens to the room. But it all depends on how that room works out. We are moving steadily along, by the way, on that build, and I'd be happy to share a little bit about that as well, because that is a pretty exciting part of my life. So I'm for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, I'm building an office out in a second garage. I call it the barn because our garage is attached to our house. It's actually pretty much underneath this bonus room that I'm sitting over, and my son's bedroom, which is next door. So we are building a secondary garage. It is built, and the walls are up, and basically the construction is done. Now it's time for me to build all of the things that I want to build inside of it. And so I'm chipping away at it daily, doing a little bit here and there. I didn't do too much over the last 2 weeks. Again, I was away for a week, but also I didn't do too much over the Christmas break. I spent all that time with my wife and kids, and I still had a job to do, so I got all of that done as well. But we had an amazing Christmas. So good to have them home. So good to be with them and spend some time together. We really had a good break. So, and I hope you did too. So my barn build, my barn build, it looks something like this. And this is next to my house. It hasn't been painted yet, so everybody calm down. Hasn't been painted yet, and I need a little adjustment on the garage door, actually the concrete under the garage door, because it's raised up a hair. And I haven't really hounded the builders because it was a heartache to get this thing up and get it working. I did the lights on the sconces on the front, and they work. But the siding and everything, oh yeah, you can see a little security camera up here in the top corner, and that is also my doing. It's solar powered, and it's a much better shot than the other driveway shot that I had. But this is a huge garage door. It's beautiful. My dad suggested getting the 12-foot door, and I did, and I love it. So it's good and wide for my truck to get in there, and it is plenty tall. I have, done my own garage door opener, which looks like this. This is a chainless direct shaft Chamberlain garage door opener. It's super quiet, and it talks to my smart house, but I also There's an app for it, which is really nice. And so it's really, like I said, it's really quiet. I ran the wiring for it, ran the electrical, did it all myself. And it took me an afternoon, but it's done and it works really well. And I like it a lot. So boom, garage door opener installed, and it talks to, like I said, I have a sensor on the door that talks to my house. So that is also pretty handy as well. So the Chamberlain, this beltless one is actually a little bit more expensive than your traditional garage door opener. It uses an app called MyQ, which is also what my other garage door is on, so it's all in one place, which is really nice. Then we decided to do a little bit of work on the inside. Honestly, I've been doing a little bit of work for quite a while on the inside, but we started running electrical. I have 20 amp circuits on both sides of the garage, and so I actually have double 20 amps on one side and a single 20 amp circuit on this side. And then I moved the air compressor into this garage space, and I actually mounted an electrical box specifically for this unit, and as you can see, it's on a Zigbee plug, which then I just leave the air compressor on. When I want to use it, I just tell the house to turn on the air compressor and it kicks on. It's really nice that this is in a separate building, because that air compressor, as all compressors are, is a little bit noisy, and so it's nice to have that kind of separated. I can turn it on, and then I can go out there, in 5 minutes. It's pumped up to 120 psi. I can check the tires. I can get the kids on their bikes and all that sort of good stuff. It's all automated and pretty great. So I like this setup a lot. That electrical box is actually a metal box, which I know is not traditional, but for underneath the stairs, I think it's just as important to have it well grounded to the box and all that sort of good stuff. So we're in good shape there, and everything fits nice and tidy underneath the stairs. Then I mounted the reel to the side of the stairs, which is then pretty much right there next to my truck. So it's super convenient. It's basically like shoulder height, chest height, and so when you're reeling it in, it's very simple to use. Keeps that orange, what's it called? The hose is pretty stiff. So, and it's an older hose. It's been one that my father had 10 years ago at his place. So I put it on a reel just to keep it tidy off the ground. And then that black hose is a very flexible rubber hose for air compressors, and that's the one that I normally use around the truck. So pretty simple stuff there. Anyway, this is all nice and tidy now, and I love it because it's all plugged in. I don't have to do anything. I could just tell the house to do it, and we just keep going. So then the next is the electrical, this is the next project that I'm working on right now, the electrical up in the attic. Now, I'm not really planning on doing any making this this isn't a living space, okay? The attic is up on trusses, and so I don't want to add dead weight to those trusses, and typically you can do about 10 pounds per square foot, which is not that much. But we are going to put electrical up there because I am going to do a little bit of finishing on part of it so the kids can have a bit of a playroom. Again, not going to be a big deal up there. It's just going to be a space for toys and for the kids to have a playroom, because this bonus room is multifunction. We've got our theater system up here and a few things. So that's going to be more of a quiet space for them. So I'm going to be working on that, but there are going to be electrical outlets up there. And I'm going to have two 15 amp circuits, one on each side. And that is going to basically power 4 or 5 electrical boxes, 4 or 5 outlets that will be available for them to use while they're up there. So that is kind of the latest on that build. I've got some things that I can do, next things that I can do. But now that we're kind of moving things out and getting things completed, the space in the garage is kind of starting to expand. And like I said, my F-150, which is it's not the long box, but it's definitely never had a home, fits comfortably inside of that garage. And so I love it. I'm really happy about that. I have a whole bunch of extra wood, and I've moved that into what will be the office space one day. But move that in there for storage for now until I start building the office, which is coming up basically end of the month or next month. That's probably when I'm going to start trying to do some of that. But it all just depends on budget and money flow and time and all of that. So it's been a real fun project so far. We've enjoyed it. Here's proof positive that the lights outside do work. We have electricity. It's all working correctly as I expect it to. One of the projects that I'm going to be doing is running fiber optic cables from my network here in the house out to the garage through conduit. So that's a project that I could do. I should do like on one of these. It's currently 60 degrees outside. It's going up to 67 in January, middle of January. Wild. So I should do it right now because the ground is soft and quite damp, and so you could easily get that conduit run. But we'll see how much free time I have today because I need to get 3 services completed. Long story, but I need to get a lot of work done. So let's chip away at what today's topic is. I see a couple of you guys hanging out in the viewer count, which welcome aboard. Always glad to have you. This is today Tim Hortons coffee in a Tim Hortons mug. So that's pretty great. We did get a chance on our way up to Ontario to hit up several Tim Hortons. So that was delightful to have actual Tim Hortons coffee from Tim Hortons all the way up. And then in Ontario, we went once or twice and then all the way back down. There is a Tim Hortons basically all the way down to like north of Cincinnati. And so we definitely hit up Tim Hortons in the morning when we woke up at our hotel, which was in Troy, Ohio. And then so there was one in town, and then we went south about 45 more minutes, and I got another coffee, and my wife bought a cute little mug, and we hit up that last Tim Hortons before we entered into Kentucky. So, and there are Tim Hortons in Nashville, north of Nashville by the airport, but that's kind of not the direction we drive when we come home. So we go westbound. All right, so there is the Tim Hortons saga. I know that you are all very excited to learn about my Tim Hortons extravaganza experiences while I was gone. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the automation stuff that I figured out this week. Pretty exciting. My daughter was home yesterday because she wasn't feeling well the day before. Yesterday she was right as rain, but she was home yesterday, and so we were sitting here, and I was like, I got to monkey around with buttons again and try and figure out the workflow of when ProPresenter fires a slide. All right, just briefly backing up so that we can provide some context here. When I'm video producing, okay, so I'm the guy at the switchboard actually switching the cameras and calling the shots. That's my job. I'm the director at Safe Harbor. That's what I do on Sunday mornings. While I'm doing that, one of the things that I'm commonly forgetting is to turn off lower thirds, which is coming over on an alpha channel from ProPresenter. It comes out of ProPresenter, goes alpha, key and fill into a Decklink Duo on 2 computers. Okay, we duplicate this process, but it's coming over on key and fill on a alpha channel from ProPresenter over a Decklink Duo Blackmagic to our Blackmagic ATEM, okay, our ME2 Constellation HD. And out of there, then, I have the option on an X Keys 64, I have an option to turn on or off lower thirds. Now, the problem, everything works great, okay? That setup, I recommend it. The problem I have is that when we're showing the full output, okay, so I have something called Studio ProPresenter and MacBook Pro ProPresenter, which are 2 feeds, like maybe we show a video of somebody talking, right? And we have a lot of those. Or we have somebody that's submitted, they're going to read our scripture for the week. And so we're going to put the lyrics, the scriptures, up underneath on their video. All right, and I could give you an example, but I'm sure you're following along here. We put the video up and we run the scripture. When you do that, you want to turn lower thirds off because you don't want the lower thirds channel, which is going out through the Decklink Duo, also showing what the full output is from the computer. So instead, we bring full output, screen 2, we send it out HDMI, and that goes into a decimator, and then that comes over to us, it converts it, and comes over to us SDI, and into a channel into our Blackmagic ME2 Constellation HD. So the each computer, there are 2 of them, are sending us 3 SDI signals. They're sending us a full SDI, full output. then it's sending us a key and a fill, okay? And then we duplicate that process for redundancy's sake. So if one of the computers explodes, shuts off, wigs out, does anything strange, boop, we switch over to the MacBook Pro, which is running in tandem with that other machine, because in ProPresenter you can link computers together to do, like, basically for redundancy's sake, but to mimic each other. So you set up a playlist, you import it. What I do is I create it here on this Mac Mini. I sync it up to Dropbox, and then I pull it down together on both of those machines so they're images of each other. And then if we make any changes on Sunday morning, like lyrics or whatever, we can then just sync that part over to the other machine. So when we do all that, we want to be sure that you're sending the same thing over to our computer. Well, it works really well. The problem that I have, though, is we'll show lower thirds for graphics, props, name tags, whatever, for live video that's happening in the soundstage. But if I forget to turn it off and we go to like scripture reading, and then the ProPresenter gal is showing the scriptures along with it, we do just one verse per slide. So she's clicking through it. What happens is the last slide always shows up with different like sizing, and I think I fixed that. But it's basically showing the alpha channel, which is the lyrics in this instance, or the scripture, as well as the video, which also has the lyrics on it. And so if there's any alignment errors, differences between what's coming over on the alpha channel and what's going out on the full video, you're going to see them overlapped on top of each other. I am always forgetting to turn off lower thirds when we're doing something like that. Now, I will turn it on and off on my own. Name tags, like, so our minister gets up and he starts talking, I put his name up. We send a name tag slide up. The ProPresenter gal clicks the slide. It shows up as a feed. I click lower thirds on the ATEM. It shows, and then I wait a few seconds. Then I click it again. It takes it away, and she clears it on her side. It works really well. Okay, it's a really good system. But if I forget to turn it off for some reason, then we get these weird screen things. So the fix that I wanted, the workflow, the automagic that I wanted, was that when we go to a particular slide, and in my instance we use transition slides, okay? So in our show we have like a welcome bumper is what I call it. It's a welcome bumper. It's just a slide that says welcome to Safe Harbor. And then we go into the welcome. Usually it's a video, sometimes it's live, but it's a greeting from somebody in the church saying welcome to Sunday morning. Very typical at a Christian church, okay? You have a welcome bumper, and then we have a greeting. Well, I want the lower thirds to turn off automatically when these bumper videos show up. So we have a welcome, we have a scripture, we have a sermon bumper, we have a Q&A bumper. So we do like a Q&A session where people can submit questions during the service online, and then our minister will answer them at the end. And he's a brilliant guy, and so he can do that. And you know, the answers are quite high caliber in terms of he's a professor and a scientist and a whole bunch of things. And so he's got a good range of ability to answer questions fully. But we take 10 minutes at the end of our service if we ever have any questions that come in online. And since the majority of our people are watching online, that's how they can interact with us live. And then he answers their questions live, just like I'm talking to you through socials, although there's nobody talking in socials right now. So just like I would talk to you in socials, same idea, is that we want to communicate and bring in questions from our audience live, so that if they have a question, they can ask it and we'll answer it. It's a fun feature. It doesn't get used a ton, but it is kind of a cool thing. So we have a bumper for Q&A. We have a bumper for closing prayer. We have a bumper for a few things, right? All these little mini videos. Well, on any of those bumpers, I make those per series. Okay, so we have sermon series that run anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks. We make these transition bumpers for our series. And what I want to do is somehow indicate on that slide that I want the lower thirds to turn off on the ATEM. Well, ProPresenter 7 and Blackmagic ATEM don't talk to each other natively, and that is where BitFocus Buttons workflows can come in handy, because we can we can we can have these two connections what are they called? They're called, connections inside BitFocus buttons, and they can talk to each other based on if that program does this, then this program does that. If this, then that, right? All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to, this is the studio machine, the main ProPresenter machine that's over at the soundstage. And here is our version of BitFocus buttons that we have set up, and I'm going to walk you through how you do this if you're at all interested. So we're going to go to Connect. We're going to add our ATEM device. I've got two ATEMs actually. One's a recording ATEM and one is a constellation. And then we're going to add our ProPresenter API. Now, be careful here, because if you have been using ProPresenter in BitFocus buttons for a while, you have to upgrade to the API. So ProPresenter, which is Renewed Vision, all of us were using 302 up until about a month ago. All right, this is January of 2026. That has been discontinued. ProPresenter itself, ProPresenter 7 version 21 does not support Renewed Vision ProPresenter 302. You have to use the ProPresenter API, 105. I discovered this about a month ago, that once I updated ProPresenter, this doesn't work. The good news is the API is pretty much the same thing as the other one, but it's a little more universal, so you can switch over. Unfortunately, there's no way to just quickly switch over. You have to rebuild your buttons and your automation with the new module. So add the module, and then it will show up here on your list. Then we need to fill in our IP address. So if you're running buttons on a different machine other than the one that you're running ProPresenter on, you need to put in the ProPresenter computer's IP address, and you need to match the port that you're using it on. So look inside of ProPresenter. It will tell you all that information under the network settings. Make sure network is enabled, which if you're already using this, it would be. So then we connect it here, and if you get a green dot, that means that you are talking together with the module and with Companion. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do then is set up our new workflow. And I'm just going to show you how this one works for me, because it took me a while to figure this out. But you label it whatever you want. In my instance, it's ProPresenter 7 macro running clear lower thirds. Now, it's actually not a macro. This should be renamed to settings ProPresenter prop. I thought I was going to use a macro, but it ends up being that I need to add something to a slide. A macro would make sense, but I need to add something to a slide inside ProPresenter that will trigger the thing that I want to execute inside the workflow. So let's go ahead and zoom in here, and I'll show you how this works. So we have the ProPresenter API connection. We're going to add over here node pool connection feedback. This one here, which gives you the option to set up a connection and then an output. And what you're looking for inside flows is you want this white dot to be on the right-hand side as your trigger. This is the thing that's going to trigger whatever it is that you want. ProPresenter API, active prop, so when a prop becomes active, and then, unfortunately, ProPresenter does not allow you to then see what props are available, so you have to manually specify which prop it is. Now, a really helpful tool here is the debug option. And you can enable it here at the bottom of the screen, which is kind of behind my face. But here it says show debug. You want to drop the debug down, and this will tell you a lot of information. All right, so I'm going to copy this real quick and just remove this. This will tell you, and hit apply. This will tell you prop ID text, and then it has two quotations. Well, inside the API, which I'll show you in a second, inside the ProPresenter API documentation, the clue is what's between those quotations, and it's going to be that big, giant, long number. This took me forever to figure out. And so it's going to be that giant number, and you're going to drop that in here as your specified prop ID. All right. Now, how do we get that information? Well, we have to go to the API in order to figure that out. And in order to do that, we need to go inside ProPresenter. ProPresenter settings. And then we're going to go to Network API Documentation. This is going to take you to a web UI, but it's the API documentation that's getting information from your ProPresenter machine. And we're going to scroll down here. I can just close these actually. And we're going to look for the thing that we want to ID, which is prop. All right, so macros are here. And I'm not sure if I could use a macro, but we could try that later as an experiment. But we're looking for the word prop. We're in P, which is right here, prop. We want to get ID for the prop, but I have found that the easier way to do this is to run this command, which is prop collections, which requests a list for all of the collections from this content. So default value is false. We want to try it out. And we are going to then look. Let's go ahead and execute this. And we're going to look at all of this list. This list shows me all of my props that I have set. And so now we go back to ProPresenter and I'll explain how this works. I'm going to add this lower thirds off ATEM. Can you see this? No, you can't. Let me move this over real quick. I am going to add, let me move this over real quick. Okay. See this prop that I made? I made this prop that's a 1 second prop on off. And I called it lower thirds off ATEM. That's basically the cue that anytime I put that prop on a slide, when they fire that slide, it's going to run that prop for 1 second. And that's going to trigger then my workflow for my ATEM to turn off the lower thirds. So I've created that, and then you need to say auto clear, and you can set it for whatever you want, but I don't need it on at all other than I need it to go off and then turn back. I need to go on and then turn off. I need to go off is what I was going to say. But if I click this button, it goes on, and then you can see the prop button here turns off again. That's what I want. Now there's a little something. Here's a bonus feature for you that I didn't know until I monkeyed around with this. Is that there is a way that if you fire this, let me go to the worship service that we were doing here. And if I click on this, it shows my welcome bumper. Okay, and clears that prop. But the only reason it does that is because this button right here, was selected before I added the prop to the slide. I couldn't figure out what was going on. This was not highlighted. Okay? And I dragged the lower thirds ATEM prop onto my slide and fired the slide, and the prop didn't auto clear. The timer was negated. What you have to do is you have to tell it single prop mode. Okay? And I believe what this does is if I fire a time slide and then I fire another one, it clears the other one and puts the first one up. So it just only allows one prop up at a time. If it's not selected, you can add multiple props on top of each other, and that's not very helpful. All right, so you got to do single prop mode and then drag your prop onto your slide. And then when you fire the slide, it goes for whatever the allotted amount of time. In my instance, it's 1 second, and then it clears. All right, now we got to go back to the API documentation, and we're going to look for, now that I've looked at this collections, okay, so we wanted to use get v1/props_collections. And this shows a whole list of all your collections. You want to say try it out, and then you want to click execute. This is going to give you a list of all of your props, and it's going to give you the UUIDs, which is what you need to know so that you can put it inside of workflows so that it triggers it's watching for that prop to go so it knows then to run the automation. So here it is. This is the UUID. You just copy, and then you go back to your workflows and you paste it into your prop ID. That's the magic. All right. Now we need to verify that the state goes true when we fire that prop. And so I am going to just shrink this down real quick, and I'm going to try and split screen this. All we want to do is watch the connection feedback. And here it says state false, which means it's not running. And when I click on, I've dragged it onto my slide. When I click it, it shows true and then false, which means that here on the screen, see these two lines that I've connected now to my actions? They should also turn true. So if we click on the welcome bumper, they show true, and then they show false. We know now that when we click that prop or a slide that has that prop layered in inside ProPresenter, the workflow will do the command, will send the command to do the thing. So now the question becomes, how do we get the ATEM to trigger to turn off the lower thirds? There is, thankfully, inside of the module for Blackmagic, so we, again, connections, no, we don't have to save this. Connections, ATEM constellation, we're going to add, just type in ATEM, ATEM, Blackmagic ATEM, and you can select it's a router, so you can select a router, and then you can add it. Then it will give you a list of all the devices that you have on the network. And so you select your constellation, ATEM2ME constellation. I was saying that wrong earlier. And you can then connect it, make sure that you get a green light up here at the top, and then you go back to your workflows. And inside our prop clear lower thirds, we're going to add a connection action, which is just a basic function that we're going to select the ATEM constellation as our connection, and then it brings up all of our actions for that. And here, our lower thirds are actually set to the downstream key. Keys 2 and 1, respectively, for primary computer and secondary computer. Now, there's a reason why I did that. The MacBook Studio is our primary machine that our ProPresenter person uses every single week. And so I want that lower thirds to always be primary, which means that it needs to be set to downstream key 2. Because in a battle between downstream key 1 and downstream key 2, downstream key 2 will always be on top. All right, it will always show on the top layer, which means that you need to bring over your key and fill into the constellation downstream key 2 DSK2 that's your primary. You can label it however you want on the user interface as, lower thirds primary, lower thirds secondary, all good. But you need to set it up as downstream key 2 on your 2ME constellation HD, if that's what you have, because the 2ME has 2 downstream keys available to it. So then we need to know that information. We need to know which feed is coming over from which computer in order to execute this properly. And so here, the first command that I have is on connection action, and I dragged from just my cursor, I clicked on the state of the feedback and connected it to the yellow event button over on the connection action. And then I selected ATEM constellation, and what I want to do is just search for downstream key, and I want it to set on air. And what that will give you is 2 or 3 options. It will set on air to on, off, or toggle. Okay? I want this function, when the prop gets selected, I want it to turn off my lower thirds, and I want it to always turn off on those. I'll never have an instance. I mean, I'm sure I could come up with one, but I'll never, hang on, coffee break. I never have yet had an instance where we run a video bumper and I need lower thirds to be on. As the director of the production, I want to control when and how elements are shown on the screen. When the logo goes up, when the name tag goes up, when the scriptures go on the screen, when all of that. I want to control it all. As the director, you're directing the workflow for that production. So I want to always turn off the downstream key options. And here I've got downstream key 1, and I duplicated it for downstream key 2. So whenever the prop gets selected in ProPresenter, that specific one, it will turn off both downstream keys. It will set them to off. And then you can verify that obviously that works. Now, a key function here, I can't reiterate this enough, is the debug function. The debug function for the ATEM constellation is extremely helpful because I had a problem where it wasn't connecting to the on-air downstream key 1 function. Actually, it wasn't connecting to either of them. And when it wasn't doing that, it was showing nothing in the debug area. The reason why I knew it was working correctly is because the debug gave me the information back as to what was going on. And what I'll do here is I'll log into the other streaming machine. I'll do it over here. I'll log into the other streaming machine, which is the one that, which is the one that looks at the actual ATEM. Whoops. I keep fat fingering things here. Okay, so this is the one that looks at the other ATEM, and actually I could do you a solid here and pull up the ATEM just on this machine because I believe ATEM, software control is here. So, all right, here is, that's the recording one. We go to connection and we say constellation. Okay, here it is. All right, I don't need this one then. So let's go ahead and lock the screen on this guy. All right, so here's that ATEM. Well, let's go ahead and turn on downstream key 2. Something that you want to notice here is now this trigger is all set up to go. Okay, downstream key, everything's kind of reporting in. That says key 1. Oh yeah, don't get confused here. In programming worlds, key 1 is numero 0, and key 2 is 1. Now this is just classic programming, okay? That's just how that is. But don't be confused. Key 1 is going to be key 2, and then here, key 1 is going to be key 0. Let's look at that one real quick so that you see the difference. Boom. So check and check. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to run this with a prop. Remember that my on-air, here's evidence, my on-air button is on. We're going to go back here. Ooh, I could even do this as split screen. And we're going to run this prop. Let's go ahead and run that welcome slide again. Boom, done. So my automation is now working correctly as I expect it to. When that prop gets run, it will clear the on-air function from, come on, make this full, why are you not full screen? There we go. It will make that, it will clear the lower thirds every time, whether or not it's on or not, which is totally fine. I just don't want it on, I don't want to forget that it's on, and in particular, the scripture slide, because that's the one that I always forget it on. So here we go, we'll go down, and when we have somebody read scripture, I want the prop to fire, I want it to clear, I want the prop to clear as well, so that's why the auto clear is on there. And then as we're showing the video and we're going through the scriptures, right, it's not coming in as lower thirds as well. It's only coming through as full screen on Studio. That's what I want. So it doesn't seem like a big riddle, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the prop ID was, and that is the big bonus freebie today is the ProPresenter API will actually, the documentation says just go ahead and go to get IDs and then try it out, and then you're supposed to do this stuff and say execute and whatever, and then it just gives you one. That's not helpful. What you want is to scroll down to prop collection and then say try it out, execute, and then this actually will give you the full list of the IDs. So, oh, did I do that wrong? Maybe I did that wrong. I did that wrong. Prop collections is here, sorry. So you would say try it out, this one, v1 prop underscore collections, execute, and then it will give you a list of all of your props, because I have more than one, right? I've got lots. So it gives you a list of all your props and the ID that you're looking for. Look for the name, and then the ID is the UUID number, which is a unique identifier, but then it will work. It's index 7, but the name didn't work, like this lower thirds off ATEM, that didn't work. And the I couldn't figure out what it was. Oh yeah, don't copy the quotations, only the digits. And then when you come back here to workflow, just put that here. And you'll see, if you've done it right, under the debug log, you'll see it will say prop ID text, and it will put the quotes in for you. So that's stinking sweet. Now, if anybody from ProPresenter is watching, the module, the API module, it would be really helpful if under ProPresenter API, when you say active or prop active, if you would list the props that are there, because it could just run the query v1/props_collections and find it for the user, and that would make it very, very easy. But instead, they don't do that. So now, remember earlier I had said I wanted to use a macro. I was thinking I'm just going to make a macro and drag that on, because that's actually how we trigger our lights inside of our soundstage. Is we click on a macro and it dims things down to through MIDI. Actually, it does it through MIDI. I could do it here, because I could do it with a prop. Actually, now same workflow, but I could do it with a prop, because light key, which is what we use. Go ahead and save. Light key, which is what we use, is a module here inside of BitFocus buttons. And so I could create a workflow that automates the lights, light automation. And it would be a very basic light automation. So we would say connection feedback, and we would go again, connection is ProPresenter, and feedback could be prop. It could also be a timer state. So you could select the timer, and for example, we have a pre-show countdown. Why you don't have the timer ID there, I'll never know, but we can maybe find it here. So triggers, transports, timers. So now we want to say timer IDs, request detailed list for specific timer, request for all configured. There we go. So try it out, execute. All right, here are the timer IDs, and this one is pre-show, so this is the UUID I want for that. And we're going to say copy, we're going to say workflows, and then we're going to paste and match style, and then timer state is running. Okay, we are going to leave that as is. It says that it doesn't have... Okay, so here's a great example of it kind of taking its time to figure out what's going on. And this is an issue I had with the Blackmagic ATEM, and I think it's actually a workflows issue. It's not a module issue. But it seems like it needs to either be like power cycled, or you need to quit and come back. So maybe I'll try that. Let's find out what the trigger is here for this. So we're going to quit ProPresenter. We're going to see this go red once ProPresenter quits. Coffee time. There it goes. And then I'm going to relaunch ProPresenter, and then and then we should see it come back green. Boom, it's green. And did we get the debug status for this? No. Let me run the timer and see if that gives me something. So we're going to go here to timers, pre-show countdown, start. It is now currently running, but maybe we have to hit apply. You got to hit apply. All right, and there it is. So now it says that it's not running. It definitely is. So let's go ahead and stop, reset, and start. And are we running? False. It says that it is not running. So let's see. Stop, overrunning, overran. Well, that's interesting. Timer state. Oh, it says it's running. Interesting. All right, so it can confirm that the debug says that it's running. So when it runs, maybe we need to create a state. And I also need to probably turn the lights on, because let's go here. Let's open up the other machine, which is where light key is. All right, this machine is where light key is. Probably set them to 30%. There's light key. Oh no, they're currently off. Okay, so we will just keep that handy. Now we're going to go ahead and stop the timer for the time being. Reset. Okay, pre-show countdown, And then we're going to add an action. So we're going to drag the action onto here, and we're going to say here we want light key to do an action. We want to trigger a cue. The mode is activate. Page is all pages. And then this cue is actually, how did I say I automated this? Through MIDI. Okay, so settings, devices, MIDI map. No. Let me look inside light key because I think it's actually light key that listens for the MIDI. How did I do this? Yeah, it's like when we play a MIDI key, then it triggers that this is listening for MIDI. So is it in here? Settings, manage, buy licenses. Well, anyway, there is a way that I can find this out pretty quickly because there's, which one is it here? It's none of these. Awesome. It's this machine. So in this machine, I have this information already registered because I'm using it inside of my X keys. So we're going to launch companion. Come on. Come on. There it is. Launch. Buttons. This right here. So here are the all pages. Cue name is 100%. Fade time 2. So now we're going to go back to, whoopsie, this one. We're going to go to this automation just to try this out. So page name. Well, I know the cue name is 100%. And fade time is 2. And then we're going to connect the state to the event. All right. Now we want to run yoink. Now we want to run the countdown and see if my state changes. Oh, bummer. Can't do it that way. Okay, we'll do it here. So now we're going to run the countdown and the state does not change. So let's hit apply. Boom. Okay. So now it's listening. So let's go ahead and do that again. Yoink and reset and go. Pages, cue name. It didn't fire, right? We're not at 100%. No. So I'm not too sure where I find out the page name. That's always confused me here with light key. I'll put this over here for now. It's almost as if, though, the timer is not actually triggering because it didn't, right? It didn't actually do this. Can I test this? No. State is false. So this is one of those things that's like, okay, it's 100% running. It's running right now. No, I don't have to hit apply again. So it's running right now. Why is it not saying true? Right? Because it's currently listed as false. So that is a head scratcher right there. Let's take a little break to say hello to Angus. Happy New Year. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for coming along. Okay, so perhaps, maybe we don't need the timer ID if we select it here. Let's go ahead and apply. Look, drop down, and then it lists the number already. So maybe I don't need to do that. I don't need to have it twice. So then let's say back up and go. No, that did not do it. Timer state is, so maybe we got to do something else. Stage layer, screens, layers, messages, layouts, look, active capture. So these are all things that are not particularly helpful. Let's go ahead and turn this one off, and we'll close the debug state just so it shrinks it down a little bit. And let's do variable. Let's see what we can do with the variable. We're going to kill this. Okay, so connection, ProPresenter. And the variable that we get is, do we have a timer? This is a lot of presentation, current slide, next slide, playlist, active look, stage screen, name, version, transport. Since I've been looking at a lot of these, I definitely have been more familiar with active announcement, active presentation, and playlist, active announcement name, next slide, current slide. So I don't see what I'm looking for here, unless it's this stuff, but I can't. Oh, timer. Okay, what's the timer? Ends in, let's just look here, ABCB5AE. Let's see if we can find that one. Oh, look. No. AB. Right? Ooh, there. ABCB. Five AE right there. Value. Ooh. ABCB5 custom. If we hit apply, what do I get? Okay. This is interesting. So if I hit go, why don't I have any value here? Should be telling me what the value is, right? Should be live. So that might be the issue, is that for some reason ProPresenter is not feeding back this information, because that's the same problem that I'm having with this guy, is that the information is not getting fed back correctly. And so when I select, manually select it like that, let's copy that, boom, paste, apply. So now it's currently running. Oh, and it's not on. That's why. It could be why. Nothing. Still has a false state. State false. Timer setting when it's running. Here's the drop down. Oh, that's not what I said. There. So state false. Go ahead and stop. Go back. Still not showing. I have the specified ID in there when it's running. Currently says false. It should say true because it is running. Very interesting. Very interesting. Running, stopped. Let's say apply again. Whatever I got to do here to get this thing to... Because I do have the timer running. So I'm not too sure what they mean by running, because it is running. Countdown timer. Oh, that's cool. We should do this. Oh, that's cool. Countdown to time. I'll show you this real quick. This is a sidebar, but this countdown timer actually runs. This is my NDI feed. For those of you who remember me from my old days, we have a countdown timer, and here when we fire it, it is set to edit action default countdown. Why did it reset it to 5 minutes? That's weird. Build pre-show countdown. Why did it? I don't know why it changes it to 5. Is it because it's countdown to time? Allow overrun. But then it changes it. I must have a setting in there to set that every time. Anyway, so this is what that timer's for. Is that when we automate this through the calendar setting inside ProPresenter. So instead of relying on your volunteer, my volunteer is the best at this, but if you don't have reliable volunteers, what you can do is you can set up a schedule. And here you can just say new schedule, and you say, I want my announcement slides to begin on a specific day at a specific time. And then I want my countdown to begin at a specific day at a specific time. And you just select the one that it is. So we have Safe Harbor Countdown, and here we have our announcement slides, and that's it. But you can change it to whatever else you want. You just go to your playlist, pre-post slides, and select the one that you want. So for Sunday, this will be the 11th. So my gal will go in there and set this up before we even start streaming. But then it's all automated. So then when the time comes along, the countdown begins on its own, and we always begin at the exact same time. So that's really nice. It's a really nice little feature to, automate that stuff so that you're not relying on people catching in. Hey, is your timer running? You better catch it. Yeah, and so is my fridge. We've got to get both of those reined in. All right, so we're cool there. I'm going to run this timer just to continue to troubleshoot this a little bit and see what I can come up with. Again, I'm not too sure why. Let's go ahead and kill this and bring it back. It is currently running, so the state of this should say true, that the actual timer itself is running. Whoa, sorry, I'm like way off the screen here. So the actual timer is running, but it's not. Now, here's another thing, if anyone from BitFocus Buttons is watching. How do you test an action, right? Like, I want to test this, make sure this is working. How do I test it? How do I click go? Do I click go? Can I click go? Because I don't see a place where it says test. It just shows me nothing. So that's not super helpful. I wish that there was a way to test that, but evidently there isn't, which is kind of annoying. So restarting ProPresenter, the API for the ProPresenter doesn't do it. The timer state, it doesn't seem to be working correctly. However, we could set it as a prop, right? Like I did before. So I can show you this process again if you're just tuning in now and you don't want to watch the previous stuff. What I did is I just create a new prop, okay? And I'll say like 100%. 100%. Lights 100%. And that trigger will then, I'm going to say auto clear this prop after 60 seconds. No, after 1 second. Boink, boink. All right. So we're going to jump over to the API, which is here in my screen. You can pull this up through ProPresenter. And we're going to go over to props. Okay, we're going to run this. We're going to re-execute this. Boink. And we're going to go down here to lights 100%. We're going to copy the UUID, which is right here. Copy. And then we're going to go back to our workflow. We're going to paste the UUID in here. Boom. All right. So now let's go ahead and apply. All right. Timer state. Whoa, see, something's wrong here. Look at that. It still has the timer state in here. So I'm going to delete this because it's not, that's my concern, is that it's not, I don't know, it's just not working right. So feedback connection, ProPresenter API. The feedback should be prop active. The prop should be manually selected, and this, it should be this prop. We're going to apply, and we're going to look at the debug. Then we're going to take the state button, and we're going to add it to the execute button. Then I'm going to pull this guy over here and hit lights. And, oh, I guess I have to hit apply. So now it says false. Let's verify. Wait. Oh, so that's not working. All right, what have I done wrong here? Did it trigger the lights? I'm curious if the lights are running. No, the lights are not running. Okay, good. So that's active prop specific. If I activate the prop, it doesn't do it. Fascinating. Maybe, oh, whoops, wrong one. Maybe we have to, I don't know what we have to do. What have I missed? I've missed something here. Prop ID text. Yep, this is all correct. Active prop. And then let's clear all. Run prop. False. Still listed as false. If I go to clear lower thirds, oh, is it because I didn't save it? Oh, hey, this one's not working either. What have I done? Let's run that welcome bumper and see if... Oh boy. Oh dear. All right, let's re-establish the connection here. ProPresenter API. We're going to turn it back on. Then we're going to go to workflow. It was working. We all saw this, right? We all saw it earlier. It was definitely working. Hey, true. There it is. All right, so does that mean my other lighting automation now works? I don't like that I had to restart the connection to get it to work. Okay, this one didn't work. But this one does? What is going on here? Yep, that one still works. So why then does this prop not, this specific prop not work? Let's go ahead and execute again. Let's verify that we have the right. Just do our due diligence here. Apply. Nothing. Why? What would cause one prop to work and the other one not to? Oh, you know what it might be? It might be stinking ProPresenter. That would not surprise me at all. You create a prop and then you're going to have to go back and recheck it. All right, let's shut her down. All right, turn her back on. If this works, it's going to be also kind of annoying, but at least it's a fix. All right, lights. Man. The other thing that I thought this might be is, you see how I've got this thing named? So if I say lights 100 like this, And then I go back to the API. I say execute, and I go down here. You know what? Let's reload this whole thing. Because... all right. Clear. Execute. Here, lights 100. Okay, that's a different number now. Workflow, paste and match style, debug, hit apply, and then we're going to fire this thing. False. It does not send it. That is wild. Why? Why do we think? I've restarted all... oh, because did I change the name and then I didn't restart ProPresenter? Oh my gosh. Connections, save all unsaved changes, go back here, open ProPresenter, wait for it to come online. There it is. Light automation, open ProPresenter, move this over. Nope, that's not it. Let's go ahead and verify that the clear lower thirds is still working though. Yes, true. Huh. How fascinating. It's literally the same setup, but ProPresenter is not talking. Okay. Well, active look, current look, back to prop ID, hit apply. Why? Oh, here's something that I was having issues with. This is what maybe is going on here. So I would make changes to the prop. All right. So something I ran into that I guess I didn't register that I need to probably pay attention to is I would make changes to the prop, and then I would notice that the changes didn't take place. So here is a good example of... what the heck was that error? Here's a good example of that. Okay, we have auto timers on these things. Auto clear after 5 seconds. Okay, let's go ahead and auto clear custom 1 second. All right, now watch what happens. I quit ProPresenter, and then when I reopen ProPresenter, lights, there's no timer on here. So that's a problem. It's not saving it, which means I think that's probably my issue. Let's go to 5, and then let's... I don't know what to do. I don't know how to like save. There's no save option here. So quit here, I guess. Yes, I want to quit ProPresenter. So that's an interesting problem. Like it's almost like a glitch because there isn't a save button. But if we reopen and we look at our props, no time. So I think that's what's going on here. If we say edit, I think maybe this is what I did. I went into edit. I said custom time. What? Get out of here. Edit, custom time, 1 second, show, and then I went out. and then I quit. And then I reopened. I'm pretty sure that's how it stayed last time, now that I'm thinking about it. Let's go ahead and check. The prop has... No, it didn't save it. What is going on here? Auto clear. Fine, 5 seconds. Interesting. What's interesting here is the lower thirds off ATEM, the timer stayed for that one. You know, I've got timers on all of these. There was no issue creating those. But it forces you to press Apple Q on ProPresenter to shut the program down. Apply. Whoops, wrong button. Okay. Still didn't save it. We're going to create a new folder called automation, because that's what this is, and we're going to move these collections to automation. Move to automation. Move to automation. Now, if we open our ATEM and we turn on downstream key, we'll put it here in the corner, and we press welcome, the on air did not turn off. But does it turn off if I press this? No. Oh gosh. I had this all sorted, everybody. Don't you remember? You remember, you were there. Save. Let's go back here. Why? Is it because I moved it? Did the API key change because I put it in its own folder? How stupid would that be? Does it fire? It probably doesn't fire here then, is what I'm suspecting. Right? Yeah, false, false. If we hit apply. So the question then is the prop, has the prop changed? So we go here to, let's clear, execute, collections. What am I? I'm looking at the wrong one, aren't I? Prop collections right here. Try it out. Oh. Request a list of all collections. Get a list of all props. Execute. This is probably the one I should be using. Okay, so it has changed because I put it in its own folder. That's what's going on here. That's what's going on here. Interesting. This looks like some stressful editing. This is like what scratches my brain, you know. So it's not stressful, it's just annoying. It's like, well, why do we all of a sudden have a change? Prop collection, no. Delete. Get out of here. Default collection. Delete. Delete. All right. So now we're going to go back. Oh, well, let's just fire and see if it works. ATEM lower thirds off does not work. So then we can go to here, apply, back to here. I'm sorry, back to here. Welcome bump go. Okay, that doesn't clear. Okay, so then we got to go and find the API, we're going to say clear execute. What am I looking at here? Prop collections. Clear execute. Props, props, props. I am in the wrong place. All right. Why does it keep kicking back prop and then dissolve? This is not correct. So let's go here. Let's go here. ProPresenter, settings, network, API documentation. And then we're going to go down to prop. Status, stage, prop. Here we go. We're going to say get prop collections. Try it out. Execute. Info. Here they all are. All right. So we're going to copy this one. Whoops, not there. Workflows. API, paste and match style, boom, apply, go here, fire the API. Nothing. If I say debug, it shows me the information that I'm expecting to see. It just doesn't show me. Why isn't it clearing lower thirds? So randomly changing UUIDs kind of seems like it breaks the whole point of having a UUID. Oh no, you made a tiny change to something unrelated. I bet the UUID has changed. Yes, that does seem odd, doesn't it? Let's say save. And then let's restart ProPresenter. So this is why, this this API, I struggled with it before, that it really shouldn't be, honestly, you shouldn't have to pick the prop ID from the API list. It should be integrated here in the workflow module, or even in the module itself entirely. That is not firing. This guy, it's ATEM. It's not going here. So maybe what I'll do is I will quit buttons. Bow. And then I will reload buttons. Like, I can't think of, okay, what else could it possibly be? Oh, look, we have an unknown error with the ProPresenter API. Why is that? Oh, I wonder what's going on there. That might be our riddle. Let's go ahead and power cycle. Random unknown error. Cool. Did the port change? Certainly not. Certainly not. Oh my gosh, it did. You dummy. Why would you change your port? Are you serious right now? Come on, man. Man, some of like that sort of stuff. Like that is not cool. Not cool. All right, still not firing, but it says it's connected. ProPresenter API. What is going on? Oh, there, true. Boom. All right, true, and then when it clears, it should be false, right? That's stuck on true. There, false. Boom. Okay. Okay, that one's randomly working now. Save. Now we go down to props and we watch this one, which should just work. False. Something makes me think, though, that, you know, because it's not staying, for example, when I do the auto transition on this, I say 5 seconds. It's not applying these changes. So, like, and again, ProPresenter, you need to have a place that's like apply or save or something where we are confident that it's writing the changes we're making, because then when I reopen ProPresenter, all those settings that I put on there are not working. Look, why is there no timer on this? Am I missing something? Is there something I'm supposed to be doing and done and I'm not doing? Is the timer here? No. What is going on? I just said it. Oh wait, auto test. Yeah, clear. One second. All right, hit enter? Certainly not. Certainly hitting enter is not the requirement, right? It's like, oh, you have to hit enter. False. All right, well, I mean, I wish it was some sort of riddle, but it seems to just be some sort of ProPresenter malfunction. Are you sure you want to quit? It's like, yeah, I pressed enter. Come on. I asked somebody online. I told you this guy last time, but I asked somebody online. I was like, what's going on with this? Why is it so? And somebody said, yeah, it's just this ProPresenter being ProPresenter. What is going on? If I duplicate this and set an auto clear and then delete this one, I know the UUID will be different. But then I quit and reopen because I created a new one and I made a change right away. Will it keep it? Yes. Oh my gosh, dude. What is going on here? This is so frustrating. Let's clear, execute. False. No, that's not what I said. Clear, execute. Get a list of all props. Try it out. Execute. That's not a list of all my props, man. Do I have to reload? I wonder. Do I have to reload the API page because I changed the port? That's why. API documentation. Yep. It's a different port number, so I have to reload it. Okay, well, that's maybe my own stupid fault. Get a list of all props. Try it out. Execute. Okay, yep. False, false, false. All right, so lights to 100%. So I'm thinking this is going to work. I'm thinking this is going to work this time. Boy, am I confident. Light automation. Paste and match style. Boy, am I confident. We got this, y'all. There should be a way to lock the network port in ProPresenter. It should not be that easy to change it, because that seems ridiculous. Okay, so we got to hit apply. Bow. Make sure that this is in there. Boom. Yep. Now we're going to launch this. False. Ugh. Tell me, what am I doing wrong, guys? What am I doing wrong? Save it. Save it. False. Does the other one work? Yeah, here's moment of truth. True. This is wild. This is wild. All this because reload, bam, all new UUIDs. Yeah, no, that one actually is new because I made a new one. And so I knew that was going to be different. I sure do like QLab. I mean, I'm going to have to check that out because some of this is starting to drive me crazy. And it really shouldn't. It shouldn't be this difficult. You should be able to select the prop from a list and it fires and we're good to go. You know? So let's disconnect this. Let's move this over. I'm going to go here. What is the dealio here, man? This should change. The state should change. Oh my gosh. Why? I just don't know. I don't understand why. If I change the duration to 1 second and I rerun, does it update? Lights out. No, it didn't update it. So that's, to me, that's like an interesting problem, but also a bit of a concern that when you make a change, it doesn't update the API right away. Am I expecting something that's not real by thinking that if I change something in the program, these are timers. If I change something in the program, it should change it in the UUID or in the API, right? Like we should be. I just relaunched the API. Nope, still auto clear 5 seconds. Whereas it's clearly listed as 1, which means that when I reload this, it's going to come back at 5 seconds. You watch. I bet you any money, because the API says it's 5 seconds. So it's not actually updating the API. That's interesting. Which would explain then why the API is not, which would explain then why the API is not reading back when the prop goes live. 5 seconds. Yep, I knew it. So fascinating. Is active false, but it's currently true. Apply. Yep. Interesting. Well, anyways, so then the question becomes, well, then how do I know if this automation works before I get the trigger to work? And if ProPresenter is giving me that level of problems, I'm just going to verify this still works. True. Yep. Why is this one so fast? It works, and the other one does not. They're literally the same setup. It's the same thing, except when I click this prop, Nothing. Let me check one more time. Now that I've reloaded, I'll reload the API list again. Status. Okay. Stage and props. Maybe I need to not take this prop. Maybe I need to take it from request details from a specific prop. Well, let's find out exactly which prop this is that I'm looking at. This is prop index 8. Okay, so prop ID, request details from the specific prop. This is prop 8, execute, lights 100%. This isn't different. I'm just going to, right? What's the ending of this one? It doesn't say. Let's do this. There we go. Okay, apply. So then if we fire it, it's almost like that's not real. You know, it's almost as if it's not the right one. Name, index 8, is active, false. Is active, true. Okay, so the API is responding. It's this that's not getting it. Or is it now? Nope, false. Okay. This is blowing my mind. Because why isn't it? The API works. I have to like restart it or something? Does it have to know what the state is? Like it's always coming back as false. Prop active. I've redone that prop number like 6 times now, verifying that it's correct. So that's got to be it. And is this, yeah, this is the correct number. Is there a, I don't know what else it could be. Light automation. There's nothing here that's like activate your, certainly not by connecting them, right? Apply. That shouldn't do it. Yeah, what is it about the API maybe? Huh. Well, I'll have to figure it out. However, the other one does work. So in theory, it works. I just can't get this one to go. But when I figure that out, then I'll share with you next time. So, all right, y'all. It is 11:38. I have 3 weeks of services to get done because one of our main tech guys is headed to Hawaii for a week, and he won't be there for 2 Sundays. So I've got to get that stuff done. Basically, most everything is recorded. I need to hound the people that haven't sent it in. But then most of it's recorded, and then get those actually done and uploaded by early next week so that he can watch those. And then, I got to put Sunday together. So trying to get that sorted. What else? Yeah, there's lots going on. And the barn build and, all that stuff. So one step at a time, we'll figure it out as we go along. But hopefully you're doing well. Thank you so much for coming along and struggling through this automation thing with me. Really appreciate. I actually really like the clearing of the lower thirds. That's going to help me out big time. And now I just need to get into the habit of double checking, right? And making sure that it has, that the lower thirds is, it's the same thing with the auto record. Like I have this workflow turns on the record button. It's great. I just need to have a backup, make sure, verify that the record button is on in case the automation doesn't happen for some reason. So that's where I'm at on that. Hey, have a great day, Angus. Always good to see you. We'll be back next week. Let me know what you guys got going on over there, wherever you guys are. Always open to talking through what you guys are doing too. So I know this ends up being my troubleshooting show, but hey, whatever needs to happen. I'm going to go get more coffee. This coffee is now cold, and so we need to warm it up and get on with the rest of it. But have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we will, of course, see you all in the next one. Adios.